and then you should be good to go.
Welcome to the Minimal Impact Design Standards Calculator Module 10, Permeable Pavement. To see the other modules or other BMPs in the calculator, you can go to this page in the manual or to this link in the Minnesota Stormwater Manual. Today we'll take you briefly to the Stormwater Manual to show the guidance and resources on permeable pavement. Then we'll get into the calculator and use the permeable pavement BMP. And then from the calculator, we'll go back to the manual and show you how to go back and forth between those two. So let's start by going to the Minnesota Stormwater Manual. This is the table of contents page here. And to get to permeable pavement, you'll scroll down to Stormwater Control Practices, Infiltration Practices. Click on that link, and you'll see permeable pavement is the first link on this page. Click on that, and it takes you to a portal page that deals with permeable pavement. So there's some introductory material and a bunch of other pages that you can link to: design, construction, O&M, and so forth. The page we're interested in today is this page called Requirements, Recommendations, and Information for Using Permeable Pavement BMPs in the MIDS Calculator. Click on that, and it will take you to a help page, essentially, that provides you with information for how to use this BMP in the MIDS Calculator. If you hover over the page contents, it will tell you what's on this page. It talks about the inputs for the calculator, the input requirements, the methodology for calculating volume and pollutant reduction, how you would route this BMP, some of the assumptions. There's an example application. Please note that as of this webinar, the example is version 2. We hope to update that with a version 3 example at some point in the future. There's other information on requirements, recommendations, and links. And if you were to scroll down through this page, you'll see that there are screenshots from the calculator, including screenshots associated with the example. So let's go to the desktop and look for the MIDS calculator icon, which is right here. You double-click on that, and it should open up the MIDS calculator. We're going to create a new file, and we'll call it Permeable Pavement. So you type in your file name and then save the file. Takes a second to unload. If you've looked at other modules, you'll know that you're on the site information screen when the calculator opens. There are 3 inputs that are required on this screen. First, you have to answer this question about whether you're using the calculator to determine compliance with a construction stormwater permit. We're going to say no for now. We also have to enter a zip code, because that will give us our rainfall data. So I'm going to enter 55155. We also have to enter some impervious surface here. If we don't have impervious surface, we have no water to treat. I'm going to enter 2 acres for this example. Note that with permeable pavement, if you are familiar with the manual, there's a recommendation not to route pervious surface to permeable pavement. So we're not going to route any pervious surface to the permeable pavement in this example. The other screens on this page are optional. This would be the information if you wanted to type in some information for your site. We're going to leave the defaults for the retention requirement at 1.1 inches. This is the MIDS default. If you were trying to comply with a construction stormwater permit, you might change that to 1. So you can change that value. The same for the phosphorus and total suspended solids concentrations. We're going to leave those at the default concentrations. So now I'll go to my schematic tab on the top. And you'll see that in the left screen here now has become populated with our performance goal for the 2 acres. So we have to treat about 8,000 cubic feet of water. And you see the BMP tab here on the left. We'll look for the permeable pavement, BMP, which is right there. Click on it, hold the button, and drag it onto your screen. And now you've got your permeable pavement BMP on your screen. You can either double click on this or right click, which I'm going to right click to get inside the BMP so that we can provide the design information for this practice. So for this example, I'm going to route both acres to the BMP. And I'll go to the BMP Parameters tab, which is where I'll enter my information about the permeable pavement. Now there's a couple things to note for this practice that are a little bit tricky that you have to remember. First is always assumes there's an underdrain. So when you don't have an underdrain, you're going to pretend that the underdrain is at the top of the BMP or at the media surface. And it says here, if no underdrain is used, enter the media surface area. So that's what you're going to do. So if you don't have an underdrain, pretend like it's at the top of the media. The other thing is that the permeable pavement surface itself is included in the impervious area. So if you remember, we had 2 acres of impervious area. That would include the area of your permeable pavement. So in this example, if I was going to put in a permeable pavement surface area, media surface area of 43,560 square feet or 1 acre, that 1 acre comprises one of the 2 acres of impervious cover. If we in fact had 2 acres of impervious draining to 1 acre of permeable pavement, this would have to be 3. The bottom surface area is this area here, and we're going to make it a rectangular practice, so we're going to also make that 1 acre. Depth below the underdrain, so we're assuming initially here that we don't have an underdrain. So the depth would be the distance between the media surface and that bottom area, and we're going to have 2 feet for that. The other values, you'll have to know these. The porosity, we're going to use a value of 0.45. Will the subsoil, that's the soil beneath the bottom surface area, is it going to be compacted or not? We're going to say no for now. We're going to put this on an A soil with an infiltration rate of 0.8 inches per hour and a required drawdown time of 48 hours. And you see that when I've completed that last cell, that now we've got all these other cells populated. So we're getting a volume reduction of about 49,600 cubic feet. Our performance goal is only about 7986, so we're well above achieving our performance goal. I should also note that currently, as of this webcast here, there is an error. If your underdrain is above the bottom surface, this is supposed to default to 0. So it's a correction that we have to make. If your permeable pavement surface area is moderate in size or greater, this is not an important error because, as you can see, we're well above achieving our performance goal. For most applications, that's going to be the case, and this number is not going to be important. However, we will correct that as soon as we get an opportunity to do so. So, as I said, we're achieving our performance goals. If we went to the BMP summary, you'd see that we're getting 100% volume treatment and 100% treatment on our phosphorus and our TSS. So what if we wanted to put the underdrain at the bottom? So we would go back, and here we would say the depth below the underdrain is going to be 0. We'll keep everything else, and now you can see that we no longer have a volume reduction for water storage. The only reduction we get now is for infiltration through the bottom. This is correct in this case because in the initial calculation with no underdrain, the water that was being stored within the media was being drained, and that was that was what was meeting our performance goal. Now we no longer have water stored there because our underdrain is here at the bottom. While this is drawing down over 48 hours, water is infiltrating, however, not all the water is going to the underdrain. And so we're getting about 10,454 cubic feet. A couple things to note. I'm going to go back now and with a no underdrain situation. Because the permeable pavement is considered part of the impervious surface, we can't have a number greater than 2 acres for this example for our surface area at the underdrain. So for example, if I typed in 100,000 square feet, which is more than 2 acres, I'm going to get an error message telling me I can't have more than 2 acres of permeable pavement. Similarly, you can only route a 5-to-1 ratio of impervious area to the permeable pavement area. So if I was to put in 10,000 square feet, we have about 86,000 square feet draining to this, so that's greater than the 5-to-1 ratio. You'll get another error, and it explains why you're getting an error. So I'll go back to my 43,560 for now. Also note that this area here has to drain down in 48 hours. So if I change this value to 5 feet, I'll get another error because I can no longer drain that within the 48 hours time required. So don't be alarmed when these flags come up. The notes will tell you what you need to do to make the corrections. So now I'm going to go back to an underdrain situation at the bottom of this practice. If I change this answer from soil compaction to yes, you'll notice that the volume that I'm now capturing will be cut in half. So I've got 10,454. I've now changed this answer to yes, and now we're getting half the volume requirement. That's because the calculator, when it sees that this answer is yes, it's decreasing the infiltration rate through the bottom by 50%. So the infiltration rate, which by default is 0.06 inches per hour, now becomes 0.03 because we have a compacted area. So as I mentioned, if we go back and now don't have an underdrain, we're well above meeting our performance goal. So what if we were to go with a smaller system? Well, one of the things we know about permeable pavement is that it needs a lot of maintenance. We want to try to keep solids off of this. So it's actually good to try to set up another best management practice that can be routed to the permeable pavement, but that would act as pre-treatment. You could do this with a pre-treatment practice, but you could also do it with another practice. So I'm going to enter a bioretention system, and I'm going to route that to my permeable pavement. So I'm going to have 1.8 acres going to this practice. I'm going to quickly go through the input parameters. Module 5 deals with bioretention. If you have questions about these inputs, go to Module 5 and you'll get the answers to this. So I'm just going to simply go through this quickly. I'm going to have a very small rain garden, 500 square feet. I'm not interested in whether it's going to treat phosphorus or not. So I'm going to have a total media depth of 2. These are some numbers, as I mentioned. If you're confused about where these numbers are coming from, go to Module 5. I'm not worried about phosphorus, as I said. I'm trying to get the solids removed. That's my goal. So I'm really not particularly concerned with the media that I've got here and how it's treating phosphorus. Again, we have an A soil, and this is an underdrain system, so we'll be able to draw this down in 48 hours. I forgot to route this. It's something important to remember. If I go back into the bioretention BMP, we have to remember to route that to the permeable pavement. And so now you'll see that when I click on OK, it's being routed to permeable pavement. So now I'm going to go back into my permeable pavement. You'll notice that I'm routing 1.8 acres to the bioretention system. So I'm going to make my permeable pavement the other 0.2 of an acre in size. So that would be 8,712 square feet. So this is a much smaller system. That's right, I have to go back. Calculator can be a little finicky sometimes. I have to go back here and change this number on the watershed tab to 0.2 acres. So that's what I'm routing. And as I said, the calculator can be a little funny sometimes. I'm wrestling with it myself here a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll go back to this tab and I'll just simply take out the acreages for the square footage for now. I apologize for this. So I'm going to zero that out for now. Remember, there's an Excel spreadsheet doing all the calculations behind this, so it can be a little bit clunky at times, but it is fairly intuitive, so you can usually figure things out as they come up. So now I'm going to go back and I'm going to put that extra 0.2 acres towards the permeable pavement. That's 8,712 square feet. 8,712 on the bottom. And this is a much smaller system, but I'm still achieving my performance goal, 7,800. I'm getting 9,900. So I'm getting the volume that I need. If you go to the BMP Summary tab, you can see that I'm achieving my performance goal. I'll click on OK to get out of the permeable pavement practice, and I'll go to the main screen, the Results tab. And here, this will summarize your entire site information. It'll give you the information on performance goal, TSS removal, and phosphorus. What I want to point out is that because we now have that bioretention system routed to the permeable pavement, you'll see that the bioretention basin, shown here in blue, is capturing about 380 pounds of TSS that would otherwise go to the permeable pavement. As I mentioned, permeable pavement requires maintenance, so keeping this 380 pounds of TSS off of the permeable pavement is an excellent pre-treatment practice. Good way to keep the maintenance requirement down on your permeable pavement. So I'll go back now to my schematic tab, open up permeable pavement again. To get back into the manual, if you have questions about inputs or values or calculations or whatever, you can click on any of the links that you see here, or you can click on the Help button. I'll click on the Help button. It'll take me back to that page that I showed earlier, Requirements, Recommendations, and Information for Using Permeable Pavement. So there's a link between the calculator and the guidance document, guidance information that is in the manual. So I'll run my point again. And again, a reminder that, so in this module, we've covered permeable pavement with and without an underdrain, and I've showed you how to use another practice to maybe act as pre-treatment for the permeable pavement. To view other modules, you can go to this page in the manual or to this link, and it will take you to that page that I showed earlier. That ends Module 10, Permeable Pavement.